Welcome to the 5th installment of Hyperefficient Startup, and today we are sacrificing sanity in favor of hyperefficiency. Whoops. Yay. So, what we were doing was we have a bunch of content, like a case study, which was generated with Zola, static site generator. And as we are rewriting our website to use React for better and more modular integration with payment systems, which we have done last week, and stuff like this, we virtually had two options. One option was to port HTML that is generated by Zola to React components, which can be done symbolically by basically replacing class with class names, and it's basically JSX. And we only have 2 blog posts, so it's not a difficult task. The problem is that then for our copywriters, marketing people, and whatever, it's so much easier to write Markdown than to write React components, right? It can be a difference between doable and undoable. And the other issue is that our blog posts have TOC, table of contents, and it's made with a very jackass Alpine.js script. So I would have to port that as well, which is not something that we want to do. So the other option was to actually go ahead and make sure that we can load Zola generated websites using Vite.js. So the other option was to make our first Vite.js plugin, which we have done. It was surprisingly easy, and also surprisingly worked. So I'll first demonstrate that indeed the case study is now rendered on our new website, and TOC works as well, even if in a bit glitchy way. I mean, it kind of works. Oh wow, it rendered twice again. What happened? That's a funny bug. I had this bug already. We'll have to look at it more closely. That is really weird. The HTML is rendered twice. Thought I fixed it. What the fuck? I'm really confused. I've fixed this 100,000%. Maybe we're on some weird branch. Yep, we are on a weird branch. Yeah, demo gods cursed me. I don't know why, but it had a detached head for some reason. Now we're gonna wait for a little bit, and I mean, I didn't even need to do that because I'm pretty sure that it was already updated, but you can see, by the way, a little bit of spoiler for how we have solved things. Let's have a look at case study once again and demonstrate that actually TOC works. It'll load today. It's funny, so Vite builds production bundles extremely quickly, but when you change something which triggers rebuild in npm run dev mode, it actually takes ungodly amounts of time. Very comparable but still faster to the old school toolchain that we were using, which was like Tailwind Watch and some other bullshit. Come on, mate. Okay. Wait. All right. Let's try again. Let's click case study. Okay. I don't know why, but maybe I need to do like full reload or something. And let's open a React router. Yeah, there's no mention of outlet anymore. So it should just work. This is waiting for localhost. I actually don't know what is going on there. Maybe it like compiles on demand. Maybe it like, there's some weird, I don't know, lazy compilation for Vite when it's running in dev mode. I don't know. I should look into it because that is super slow. So anyway, now we have just one instance of post, and then we can click around and things will kind of work. It's funny how it goes all the way to the top first, and then it allows us to jump to the anchor. But okay, whatever. It's a bug, but doesn't matter. So as you see, this stuff works, and we have falling objects here as well. The thing about it is that like a lot of time I spent on making sure that our like ugly hack with falling objects still works when we open this URL first. So as you see, it does, but the problem was that if you would open case study first and then go here, then canvas would be of size 0 because it would be hidden, and the JavaScript that creates this animation would compute its size as 0, 0 for I don't know why. I actually don't. But that was the issue, and of course the standard trick of sending resize event to window helped it. Obviously, it's not these particular aspects are not too sustainable, but overall the system is way more sustainable than doing it in Zola for a number of reasons. So when we develop, the next website from scratch using this stack, we will avoid using non-React animation libraries. So we will go straight to permarandas and be happy. So let's talk about how to a little bit. In order for us to link Zola with React, we first and foremost make sure to ignore Zola, and this will ignore everything Zola related. So for example, if you have src Zola, this will also be ignored. And HTML Zola will also be ignored. All of this stuff is generated. So let's have a look here. We have posts manifest and the blog. And as I mentioned, everything here is ignored. And here in HTML, This is just where Zola will dump the statically generated HTML. This also is ignored. So what is the magic that populates these two directories? Well, let's have a look at the plugin that we wrote. So essentially, the idea here is that Vite plugins basically ask you to define what to do when you invoke them and how to recompile. So you see this return is following the plugin layout, and it has handle hot update and build start as the minimum required functions to be implemented, or methods, if you care to call them that. And then essentially we're just providing some config for our plugins or plugin options. We allow to overwrite. We ask the user to tell the component dir and manifest file, and we provide the defaults for output dir, which probably is a mistake. This should be dependent on component dir by default, or maybe we should ask the user to provide one, and binary path will also hard code. Well, not hard code, but provide defaults. Then we procure Zola. Then we make sure that that everything that all the directories mentioned in the options are created. Yeah, afterwards we do heavy lifting. Basically, we start with building with Zola using Zola tomlet we wrote. The only really important thing in Zola tomlet we wrote is that base URL is /. This way we can actually make sure that all the assets are available from the out of the box, and that was actually a big concern of mine. People who are developing Zola are very adamant that it is a website generator, and they do want for this to be a URL, but somehow we just used /, and it seems to work. I didn't investigate if what's the path, so maybe I'm actually wrong. Maybe it defaults to, no, it's okay. So see, it because the base URL is /, it literally uses / here. So it will work in production as well, which is great. Yeah, this is the only interesting thing about toml. Then output dir. The interesting thing about output dir is that we can't have it in public. We have to have it in our source tree, and that's because actually in because actually in our Vite config we include HTML as assets to be bundled, to be bundleable, which allows us to import HTML files from our TypeScript, which is amazing. Honestly, I love Vite. It's a game changer for me, for sure, and I think for many people as well. So let's finish with looking at our plugin. Yeah, it does the build, and then for each interesting index.html, it will generate a TSX file. So that we have this collect files function that collects all the interesting files, and then it generates manifest, which will be then consumed by anything that wants to list the the pages that were generated. The thing about it is that we can't we lose files. We lose the idea of a file when we bundle for web, which means that we have to have React components that correspond one-to-one to files. And then we have to have an index of things that we can load. And we can dynamically load React components, but we can't load files in browser. So this kind of explains this kind of architecture where we're generating dynamically React components. And our React components are really, really tiny and really, really trivial. For each component, we import HTML that was generated by Zola, as you can see here. And then to render a component means to dangerously set inner HTML using dangerously set inner HTML property of React elements. The trick that I want to point out here is this question mark raw. So this makes sure that you actually get the content as string rather than the file name, which is the default, or you can also have question mark URL, which will give you a URL. But none of this is interesting for us. We're interested in raw HTML loader, and then we are interested in dangerously setting the raw HTML into the div, which will be our component. Yeah, then we just do some debugging and bam, and we also write down everything in manifest, as I mentioned before, to be able to iterate over, for example, all the generated files, which you have seen in briefly when I clicked blog. This iterates over manifest. If we didn't have manifest, we wouldn't be able to iterate over all the all the React components that we generate. So this provides this manifest.ts, which is also a TypeScript module. This provides a degree of introspection. Yeah, and as I mentioned, there's also handle hot update. We see if something changed with Markdown or HTML, and then we restart the server, which is like a horrible idea. But I didn't find a way to do it more gracefully. I should look into it, but for the time being it works. So whenever I change MD, the server will restart, the page will reload. And I guess the idea is to mess with HTML and MD files as little as possible with this being enabled. Cool. So I think that's about it about this sort of trick. Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add except for the fact that we shouldn't forget to add artifacts and whatever statics that we need. I wanted to just highlight business importance of this, and business importance is that we can now just take the work that was already done and take the processes that were already put in place, leave the place where the work on the content was happening as it is, while migrating to a completely new for the company stack of technologies for the website. And yeah, it takes all the best from the world of static generation, while preserving all the possibilities of using React.js to do your custom integrations with different with payment providers, with different APIs, etc., 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 and having very, very flexible and most importantly modular web-based solutions. So that's about it for the episode. I hope it wasn't too boring, but yeah, and if someone is interested in the code of this plugin, I shall publish it in a gist, and then leave a link in the description of this video. Thank you for watching.